Hello guys, this is Charlene Cheng. In this video, I'm gonna talk about sequence containers and we'll show how to use sequence containers and precedent constraints to outline the flow of my ETL processing. Sequence container actually is used to help us to group multiple tasks. And precedent constraints are just lines show how the data flow from its source to its destination. Okay, now I go ahead and set up my sequence container. When you go to the control flow, you will find the sequence container from the containers. You can just drag it out from the toolbox onto the surface. So here I have 4 sequence containers set up. The first is the preload sequence container, and then the second one is field dimension tables, and the third is field fact tables. You really want to fill the dimension tables and before you try to fill the fact tables. Otherwise, the foreign key constraints won't work. Sometimes you don't have foreign key constraints, but it's still recommended you to do so. After you fill the fact tables and then finally you can go ahead and do any tasks that would be necessary after the tables are filled. So I call it as post-load sequence containers. After you set up the sequence containers, you can actually drag the execute task and data flow tasks into all those sequence containers. Like you can select some data flow container, data flow task, and then you can get a execute SQL task into any one of those. You're almost always going to do something like this. So firstly, preloading and followed by the filling up the dimension and filling up the fact tables and filling and the post-load sequence container. So I used precedent constraints, which are the green lines that connecting those sequence containers together and showing the data flowing direction. With that, I found those generic terms were pretty good. In fact, when you go to the book chapter, you can see an example. So this is the example from the book. What it did is prepare the ETL process, which is really just a preload, and then field dimension tables and the field fact tables, and then and ETL process, which is post-load sequence container, which we did before. And in those sequence container, you can see that the first is drop the foreign keys, and then truncate the tables, and then fill the tables in those field dimension table and the field facts tables sequence container. And then the last step is add the foreign key constraints back. Which you can see that it follows the sequences which we did before, and actually all those processes are just all the tasks that in the previous SQL script, and what we're doing right now is just to create diagram and use the sequence container or use the SSIS package to let the data flow. Again, the sequence container just help us to group the multiple tasks together, and the dragging Connecting those tasks and the sequence container is really programming, just like we did in the SQL script before.